Coming up on this episode of Common Denominator.
We are shifting where the wealth is created. And rather than it being at the top with a few individuals or, shareholders who don't have any tie to the company, it's with the people who are creating the value, and that is your employees.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Common Denominator, where we focus on human connection and what brings us together. I'm Moshe Popack, and we just had an amazing conversation with Kerry Siggins, who last year was named a top influential CEO of 2021. We talked to Kerry about employee-centric culture, how important it is to be a visionary, and her backstory about overcoming addiction. Before we play the interview, a quick reminder that if you like the show, please subscribe and follow me on social media at mpopack. Now, here's my conversation with Kerry. Hi, Kerry.
Hi, good to see you, Moshe.
Likewise, welcome to Common Denominator.
I'm so glad to be here.
So, it's hard enough to be CEO of one company. You're CEO of two companies, Stone Age and Breadware. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, and now just three. I just acquired another company last week, so wow. I got a lot on my plate. So the parent company, Stone Age, we manufacture industrial cleaning equipment, water jetting equipment. Think squirt guns on steroids, but now with robots running them. So that's our core business, and we serve industrial facilities. Contractors go in and they'll do maintenance on the various production equipment in a refinery or a chemical plant. Well, we make the products that actually clean. So high pressure water blasting is very dangerous. It is not glamorous. I thought my vision for myself was that I would be in a much more glamorous industry, but here I am in industrial cleaning and I love it. It's fascinating. It is such an important part of the supply chain, but people don't understand that. You don't see, right, the cleaning that has to happen for everything that goes into making your iPhone. And so we are unsung heroes, I like to say about our customers.
I was just going to tell you one thing, because you just reminded me of something from my early childhood, and I definitely want to hear about the second company, but I gotta just say this. I remember I must have been 9 years old, and my neighbor, he had like the biggest, like a couple doors down, he had like the biggest house in the neighborhood. And we used to go, all the kids used to go and play basketball at his house. And then one day I went to him and I said, by the way, you got to tell me what you do. He's like, listen, buddy, I'll tell you what I do, but you can't tell anybody. He's like, I have the contracts to clean the toilets on the planes when they land at JFK. And I'm like, just all of a sudden my brain starts going. So I just want to tell that message to listeners because it's literally, all things can be a business, and I don't care about glamour or not glamour. I'm a natural contrarian, and it's a good thing. It always goes down to the numbers. But anyhow, so tell me, continue. I'm sorry about that.
I love that. I love that. So we make sewer cleaning tools as well. Yeah. And it's so important, right? Infrastructure matters. If you've ever been in a situation where you can't flush your toilet, it's a really bad thing. And so it's all of that stuff that people take for granted. And there are amazing people out there doing the work that is very dangerous, has environmental and health implications. And there are using great products to do that. So we all need to be grateful for those people, cleaning out the sewers that you see, down on the side of the road or coming to your house or all of those things. Like, be grateful, because without them, your life would be not nearly as pleasant.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
All right. So the second business is Breadware, and Breadware is an IoT product development company. So IoT is Internet of Things. It's really about connected devices. It is your security system that is monitoring. You can look at it through your cell phone and you can collect data on what's going on. So that's what an IoT device is. IoT is everywhere. And we bought them because they helped us develop our first IoT-enabled product, our first IoT-enabled robot. And the two founders were super smart engineers, just not good businessmen. And they weren't taking the company where they needed to go. And our vision is to become a technology company. So it fit really well into our strategy. So we bought them in the start of the pandemic, actually, which was very scary. Am I going to go use cash to buy this company or to make sure that, we can get through the pandemic? And I decided to take the risk and buy the company. So they are out helping their clients develop IoT products. We just bought an IoT cloud platform, software system for data visualization that we're turning into data analytics. And then the next company I just bought, actually closed on last week, is another robotics company on the industrial cleaning side of things and water jet cutting. And they are really focused in government contracts, so with DoD, DOE. And so they are helping us diversify and advance robotics in our industry. So I'm running all three of those companies. Hopefully won't be forever, but it's a lot of fun. We're doing really interesting things.
Because I know you take like Elon Musk, right? So he has Tesla and SpaceX, and right. So I guess there are certain personalities, and maybe you probably fit into that can in an instant. Because I see as a CEO of a business, you're constantly juggling a problem solving. So that's probably your skill set, and then coming up and pulling triggers and making decisions constantly. Is that what it is? So you do well in that environment, I assume.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love solving problems. And the other component of it is, I think, vision. And so one of the things that I did in 2019, as we were starting to do this transition into more of a solutions as a service company, building IoT, robotics, software platforms into what we do, we literally just were a tool manufacturer, like the tool that you screw on the end of a hose. And it was really hard for my employees to see, where this was all going. And so I wrote out this really detailed, like what I think the future looks like for us and how we need to address it. And that having that crystal clear vision, like I always had it in my head, but being able to articulate it in a way that all of my employees could say, oh, I get it. And so every year I go in and I update our vision statement, what the future looks like based on the progress that we've made and the changes that we see coming. And it's really to be disruptive. It's really to challenge the status quo and to solve really tough industrial problems. And so you have to not just solve problems, right? You have to have the vision of where this is going to go so that you direct your companies in the right direction. And so that's really the two places the places where I feel like my two skills and passions come together. It's that being able to create a compelling vision that everybody can rally behind, and then understanding how to execute it so that you are solving really tough challenges for your customers, right? I want to make the lives of my customers as easy as possible. And so it's those two places where it comes together that really gets me excited about what I do every day.
So I think about the point of writing down the vision is super important, because I know that many people come to me, can you invest in this? Can you do this? And I just tell them very simple. I said, put together an email, even a text message, bullet points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it's business, right? How everybody involved is going to be able to make money. Here are going to be the people. Here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. If I would tell you maybe 90% of the time, they wouldn't be able to do that. Take the pen to the paper or put the text message or email together to send that out. So that is a tremendous value add to be able to synthesize and communicate clearly to all the employees exactly what the vision is. And in business, I harp on that all the time. Clarity, right? Yep. So that allows you also, and then you empower your employees because they're going somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and it helps you make decisions too, right? I think that word that you just honed in there, that clarity, that is having that clarity around the vision is what made it make sense to buy Breadware. When nobody in the industry and everybody's like, why are you doing that? Because we had this really clear vision, and it's like, oh, that's how it fits in. And without that, my employees would have been like, what are you doing? It's the start of a pandemic. We have no idea what's going to happen. Why are you buying a company that's not part of our core business? But because I had laid it out and everybody understood that, we were going for something bigger, it helps inform your strategy, helps inform the decisions that you make when you invest in companies or invest in technology, invest in new services. And so it's really what moves the company forward. You have to have it. And I think it's really smart of you to require that from people. But you're right, not very many. I don't know anybody, certainly not in my industry, who has such a clearly spelled out vision of what the future looks like than what we do. And I think it's why we're the best at what we do in our industry.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I admire, I know you have a ESOP model, right? Mm-hmm. The employee stock ownership plan. Do you have that? I want to discuss what that is, but do you have that and you're going to have it for your third company as well, for both companies? So give us a little background, what that means.
So an ESOP is an employee stock ownership program. It is a ownership model, and a lot of founders use it to as part of their succession, right? To transfer ownership to an ESOP trust. And the purpose of it is really twofold. One, to help the founder exit, and it doesn't have to be a founder, but that's typically where you find them the most. But it's also tied to legacy. So our two founders started selling stock to employees back in the 90s. And it was a really successful skin in the game program. And it helped us fund our own growth without ever having to go for outside money, right? For outside capital, besides from our employees investing in the company. And their vision was that all employees have the opportunity to own stock, not just those who could afford to invest in the company or who, felt, we're enough of risk takers to do it, even though it was not a risky investment. And so they wanted this legacy. And so they could have sold out to private equity, to a strategic buyer, but they said no. The employees are the reason why we are successful today, and we want the future of the company to be in their hands. So that's the kind of the reason why you would do it is you need an exit strategy and you have a legacy that you want to leave behind, that the wealth gets created someplace different than, with the few people at the top. So that's why they did it. I can get into, how it all works, but you asked me, what do you want to know next?
Right. No, for sure. But have you seen any downside to that, or you think that is the correct model for business moving forward?
I think it depends on what your goals are. I have drank the ESOP Kool-Aid, and I completely believe in it, but it's not for every company. To make it a benefit, to make it a worthwhile to do, because it's a lot of work. The company needs to be profitable, and it needs to be something that is meaningful to your employees. And not every culture is like that. Not every profit structure is like it, where it makes sense. So I think every founder needs to look at all the options in front of them to make the best decision for them. I think an ESOP is an absolutely viable model, one that a lot of people don't consider because they get scared by the price tag. It's at least $250,000 to get an ESOP set up. And there's a lot of rules and regulations that go around the valuation. But I think all of those things are easy to navigate if you have the right advisor helping you. And so I think everybody should absolutely put it on the table as an option. And you may decide that it's not for you, but it certainly shouldn't be disregarded just because of the complexity, because there's some really cool things that can happen from it, for sure.
And I do like that you said that to kind of decentralize wealth creation. I'm a big advocate of that. We have the Mayor Kava has an organization that she was part of. It's called Catalyst Miami. So one of their models is 70% of wealth is in real estate. So to have the lower income people in the community to fractionally own pieces of real estate. So that's like a pilot program they're trying to launch. I'm working with them to try to do. And I think with your business ideas, and obviously with digital currency, right, you're able to have the ability to decentralize. So that narrative, I'm a big fan of that. Is that's what you'd like to see? Is that kind of the idea and what you'd like to try to get to?
Absolutely. So I'm a big believer in capitalism, but I do feel like we've gotten off track with capitalism with so much concentration of wealth. And, it obviously has trickle down effects that ties to all of the issues that we're seeing with polarization in our economies, in our communities, in our politics. And a lot of it has to come with the fact that people don't feel like they can create a better life for themselves, right? For the first time in generations, right? Future generations have no guarantee of having more prosperity than past generations. And while that's not the only reason why some of these things are happening, right? It's far more complex than that. It certainly is a big piece of it. And so capitalism needs to evolve. And what I want to do, and what I think a lot of ESOP companies want to do, is change that narrative that says, hey, we can completely engage in capitalism. We can benefit from capitalism, but we are shifting where the wealth is created. And rather than it being at the top with a few individuals or, shareholders who don't have any tie to the company, it's with the people who are creating the value, and that is your employees. My goal is, $1 billion valuation, and to make hundreds, if not 1,000 millionaires. And not because I care so much about, everybody being a millionaire, even though that's cool. It's more about the fact that people who come in and they work hard and they're loyal to a company and they grow with the company and add value to customers, that they get to create real wealth for themselves through that, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years with a company, which is just unheard of now.
Right. I'm a big believer also in that kind of like win-win with partners, win-win with everybody. Yeah. If people are adding value, you're all putting it in a pot. Success only happens with effective team play. I've never seen one person sustainably make it somewhere and stay there. It never ever happens. So it's your guys, like it's like your entourage, it's like your people, and everybody comes up together. I always wanted a world where all my friends would just be doing great and vacationing together, having a great time together, because that's really where we should go. It should not be the other way. If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Common Denominator podcast. My guest this week is entrepreneur and business owner Kerry Siggins, and we're discussing why it's so important to build an employee-centric culture at your company. Next week, I'll be chatting with David Packhouse, a former international arms dealer who was the subject of the hit film War Dogs. He's now an inventor, and he's trying to revolutionize the way we floss our teeth. Fascinating guy. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Now, back to the show. By the way, after all of this and the third company that you're growing, I was lucky enough to be a guest on your podcast, Reflect Forward, right? You're like, I gotta say this for a second, because you, like me, extreme personality, right? So, but what we gotta do is we gotta take that energy and put it into productivity. So anyone out there has that personality, be productive, right? Spend the energy. You have tons of energy. Spend it on being productive. So, yep. So what made you think about starting your podcast?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm a big storyteller. I believe that we connect through stories, we change through stories, we change people's lives through our stories. And I'm also such a believer in my industry, and those stories never get told, right? Nobody wants to know about somebody who is, building a product that people cleaning sewers don't get infectious what's the word I'm looking for? Diseases because they breathe it in. But that is so important. And so I wanted to create a platform for people to be able to tell those stories. So I created my first podcast, which is called Industrial Theory, which is very specific to the industrial cleaning industry. And it was all around just giving those people the opportunity to share their amazing stories with the world. And it blew up. It was so popular. I was doing like one show a month because I didn't have time and to really kick it. I didn't know anything about podcasting. I literally just started it. I want to know how I did it? Because this is before like the podcast, the platforms and figuring out Zoom. I literally had a little recorder with me that had 2 microphones. And I traveled, like I was in Saudi Arabia interviewing one of this amazing customer with 2 microphones, literally like this. And this was like in 2019.
Wow.
It's so lame, so incredibly lame. But anyway, it was wildly popular and people started wanting to come on and talk about other things, but that wasn't the right show for it. And my girlfriend here, she's just a brilliant marketer. She said, why don't you start your own leadership podcast if you have so many people wanting to come on? I was like, that's a great idea. So we decided to start Reflect Forward, which was the opportunity for me to interview amazing leaders like yourself and to really start to get more of the word out there about employee ownership and about building cultures and the value of really authentic, true leadership. And so that's why I started it. But it all came from, this other podcast really focused on industrial cleaning.
Yeah, I think we have to let more and more people know it's not the narrative. It's not the narrative that they heard, because I know you also want your leadership and the businesses that you're growing to eventually be a Harvard case study, right?
Yeah.
I remember looking at Harvard case studies. I remember I was in business school, and 2 companies doing exactly the same thing, and the professor asked, he's like, "Okay, why is this one super successful and this one not?" Yeah. I said, "It all starts from the top." I said, "It's the people on the ground from the top," and lo and behold, we're looking. This one is spread thin. He has 1,000 things going on, and he's not organized. His vision's not clear. And you have to lead by example. You have to deal with the hard issues first. But the most amazing thing of everything is going back to 2006. Where you came from. Because I got to tell the people where you came from, because that is truly inspiring. Take us back to 2006, your backstory, and how you got into business.
Yeah. So it starts all with rock bottom. Mm-hmm. And so, in 2006, on Labor Day of 2006, I overdosed from multiple substances. And really what led up to that, I've done a lot of work on this, on trauma, on loneliness, on purposelessness. And really it comes from the sense that I was always trying to be somebody that I thought other people wanted me to be. So my father left when I was a young child. He was in and out of my life. I was always trying to seek his attention, always trying to make him love me. And that trauma created those patterns that I did for my whole life. And so I chose to go to engineering school, not because I wanted to be an engineer, but because that was going to prove I was smart. I didn't quit engineering school, even though I wanted to, because I wanted to prove to people I wasn't a quitter. And so I never really knew who I was. And when I started experimenting with drugs, all of a sudden I got to be somebody else. I got to be this really glamorous person at the front of every line at the party and in the in scene. And I grew up in rural Colorado, and I went to Colorado School of Mines, right? So all of a sudden it just started feeding this like really dark side of me, and substance abuse began a way to fill in the black hole of loneliness, of being lost, of being purposeless, of not really liking myself, quite frankly. And it all came to a head in 2006 when I was in a really bad place, and I was using to avoid looking at my life, and I overdosed on the floor of my apartment by myself. And I should not be here. I don't know, it's higher purpose, higher being, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, was like, nope, you're not ready. Because I remember, I don't know how long I was out. Like, I think I remember falling to the ground, but I'm not sure. But all of a sudden I was like an electric shock, and my breathing was incredibly slow, but my heart was racing. And I was like, I'm supposed to be alive. But I was too ashamed to call anybody, right? There's no way anybody was going to see me on the floor of my apartment. And so I said, well, if I'm going to die, at least I'm going to die with dignity, and I'm going to get into my bed. And I crawled into bed, and there for 3 days, I nursed myself back to having enough strength to get out of bed and to say, that's it. No more. I'm changing my life. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. I remember I had a relative of mine, I was abroad at the time in school, and he called me. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was supposed to. He got into a deal with the mafia to sell ecstasy, and he called me and said, "I need $2,000, otherwise they're going to come after me because I couldn't sell the pills." And I told him, I said, "Here's the deal. We're going to flush it down the drain." It was on the curb of some street, and I said, "We're never going to do this." So the person now took that energy, it's a close relative of mine, and he propelled it as a beautiful family, super successful business. And I think that's the tremendous message. And if you would be able to sum up, I live in gratitude every single day. I live as if today is my last day. And I try to do everything. Like, how are you doing so much? Because that's what it is. You were given the second mountain. I know. I forgot who it was, the author. Right?
Yeah.
We were talking about that.
Yeah.
Right?
David Brooks. Yeah. The second
David Brooks.
mountain.
Yeah, because I got it. I mean, you were telling me about that before when we were doing pre-production, and I want to bring that point out because, right, you believe whatever you believe. Everyone believes the narrative. I think you and I and many people. There's many. I think over 50% of humans. And people I meet all the time. They're on that second mountain, but they don't see. So our job is to tell the stories. I know you tell the story. To tell the stories, let people know that there's hope on the other side. Not in a fiction way, but we just have to figure out how we're all going to get together like a community, because like attracts alike. And I know that. Unfortunately, too many people do give up. We're dealing with a mental health crisis, but we have to. That's our job. Our job here in this world is the weakest parts that we thought that we were embarrassed about, that we had shame about. Like you were saying, right? You don't have to have dignity, right? That is what you speak on, and that is where you sit. I'm a big, big proponent, and that's where I'll be for the rest of my life, because I know what that is. I've seen it too much in my life, and if you were to sum up, what is the one thing that you're grateful for? The one main thing that you're grateful for, what would that be?
Looking at it from the lens of crawling out of rock bottom, and really the place that I was that caused so much of my turmoil. And that it's actually two things. It's lonely. It's a belonging. I'll turn it into positive. It's belonging and having purpose. I never felt like I belonged. And when I came home, which is, how this whole next story started, was coming back home to my mom. When I was back home with her, I was like, I belong. Like, I've been loved unconditionally. I can stop pretending to try to be somebody I'm not. I'm loved, and I belong, even if it's just only with my mother. And so the sense of belonging that I had, that I found when I came home to my mom, that was what shifted everything for me. I didn't feel so lonely. And then purpose, okay? Being able to, by a miracle, by someone taking a huge risk on me at 28 years old and a complete mess, to give me the opportunity to find my purpose. And giving impact as a servant leader. It didn't happen overnight. It's those two things. And so I'm incredibly grateful for those people who gave me the chances to find my way to belong and to find my way to my purpose. That's what I'm most grateful for. So my mom and the two founders of Stone Age, and then everybody else who supported me along the way. But loneliness and purposelessness, those are very dark things. And I think it's a big reason why we see these mental health crisis, the crisis that we're in. It's a lot of other reasons too, but that's what it was for me.
And I was just telling my wife the other day about the concept of unconditional love. People that I speak to, it's two things that they say. One is they say, my parents were amazing. They're the reasons why this and this. Yeah. Or they say, my parents are, it's everything's because of them. And so what I harp on, and all parents that are listening, is the concept of, you mentioned it, is unconditional love.
Yeah.
Meaning, even if it's exactly the opposite of what you believe in, you just stand there, because what is the other choice? The other choice, you have to give unconditional love to your children. it's hard. I have a few kids that are a complete fire, and I just stand there, and I have 10 of them, right? So and that's it. I just listen.
Yeah.
That's it, right? And but on a lighter note, what is something that people do not know about you?
Oh gosh. I'm an open book. All right. So, some people know this about me, but not everybody. So I definitely like out there things. Like I'm an out there person. I push boundaries. People know that. Obviously I push boundaries, but I think it goes to this, can tie back into this whole love thing. I'm a huge believer in energy work. And in fact, it is what because I've done talk therapy to figure out my dad issues and my addiction issues, and nothing ever seemed to work. But I got into energy work when I moved to Durango. I've done all different kinds, and I love it, and it is transformative. And so right now I'm doing what's called Biofield energy tuning, which was with tuning forks that helps you make sure that your energy is all in attunement, your aura. And through this work, what I have really learned is that you have to approach everything with love, right? And so how do you love yourself? How do you find love in the trauma that you experience? How do you find love in the triggers that you have? How do you find love in the relationships that might be negative or hard? And so through energy work, I've really learned self-acceptance, self-love, love of others, unconditional love. And so not very many people know that. I don't share that I do a lot of energy work with people because I think people think that's like woo-woo stuff. For me, it's been tremendously healing. It's been what has allowed me to heal, what has allowed me to peel back the onions of myself so that I really understand, who I am and who I be, rather than this image, this facade that I always tried to put on, which is fake and does not come from a place of love.
Right. By the way, it's not who. I'm familiar with tuning forks. So I don't know exactly what the practice is, but I go to, I guess my main doctor is Eastern Western, and he does an acutonics, it's called. So he does, right. So he does the tuning. And let me tell you something, because we are frequency and vibration, that's what we are, by the way. It is such clarity, such unbelievable clarity, presence. It's really nice. You have to be open to these things, right? So, this is a great world and many different experiences, and I'm a big advocate of people to journey and get that. But how can people learn more about you and follow you on social?
Yeah. So you can go to my everything is on my website, kerrysiggins.com. And that has access to all my podcasts. It has access to my blog. So you can find articles I write for Forbes and for entrepreneurs. So everything is attached through my website. My podcast is called Reflect Forward. It's on all the major podcast platforms. And you can find me on all social media handles, including TikTok, because I am even figuring out TikTok, even though I feel silly, under Kerry Siggins or Kerry.Siggins, either one. So, but you can Google Kerry Siggins, and I'm the only one out there. So you can find me that way.
Thank you so much, Kerry. It's really been amazing. Thank you.
I love talking with you. Can I just tell you what I appreciate about you the most?
Yes, Kerry.
You have such a presence of abundance that it is just contagious. And I really appreciate it about you in the world that's filled with scarcity mindset. It's so nice to just meet somebody who is so abundance focused, and it just, oozes from your pores, and it's really contagious and it's really lovely. So thank you. I'm honored to have gotten to know you.
Yes. Thank you. It's important. That's our job. We have to let everybody know that that's possible.
I agree.
Because every other narrative doesn't. I've journeyed to other narratives. They just don't work. Right?
Nope.
That's right. So really, Kerry, thank you. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Kerry. Next week, I'll speak with David Packhouse, international arms dealer turned successful inventor. We'll chat about his incredible history and how his latest invention will revolutionize the way we all floss our teeth. Have a great week.